You're listening to the Woman of Value podcast. You are about to hear the story of a woman who is following her dreams and passions and creating positive change in the world.
We teach women the importance of making time for themselves. I call it she time. If we don't put our oxygen mask on first, it is really, really hard for us to take care of others. So for me, a woman of value is somebody that gives somebody else the tools they need to step into their personal power.
My guest today is Peggy Sullivan. She is a high-energy, results-driven woman who's passionate about raising the bar for herself and others. She loves a challenge, and she believes the pride that comes from achieving stretch goals is intoxicating. She ran her first marathon at 50 years old. Woohoo! Peggy has enjoyed executive positions in marketing communications, operations, and customer experience at national and international companies like BlueCross BlueShield, United Healthcare, Materion, and
Benderson Development. Materion is one of those companies that nobody recognizes, but I assure you, you probably have 1,001 of their parts in your computer, in your phone, in your household, in your car.
Well, okay. Peggy's blueprint for success is to work hard, be humble, and to give back. I love that. And when she's not working, she loves anything active, spending time with her friends and helping other people. She's also on the board of directors for the Jewish Center of Buffalo. Welcome to the show, Peggy.
Thank you, Sandy.
Yeah, well, so you are here as a woman of value, and I would love for you to share what woman of value means to you.
I sure will. For me, being a woman of value means someone who helps people rise up and step into their personal power and to become the best versions of themselves. My purpose or my passion is really focused on helping people, especially women, overcome their fears, their challenges, so they can find a more happier, more meaningful life. Women are caregivers. It's just part of our DNA. We spend so much time of our lives taking care of others. We often leave little time left for doing the things that bring us joy or being able to achieve our personal and professional goals. And really, with everything that's going on in the world right now, all the social unrest and the pandemic over the last several months, life is more challenging and complicated than ever. This previous lifestyle that we all grew accustomed to is gone for the foreseeable future. And women have the day in, day out balancing act of juggling so many roles and responsibilities, many of them that are new to us. We're mothers, we're daughters, we're wives, we're teachers, we're now homeschoolers. We manage our households, take care of our family safety. We're entertainment directors. We put food on the table, and all of that, all of those roles and responsibilities are on top of our career or our paid jobs. And for most women, this exhaustion, this stress, it is really real to them. As a matter of fact, there was a study done by Forbes magazine, and it asked women, what is the number one thing you're feeling today? And most women said stress, 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 and exhaustion. Every year, my nonprofit does market research to better understand what challenges women face, what their interests are, and what their fears are. And based on the research, we put together programming to help women overcome their challenges, their fears, and provide them the tools they need to be successful on a personal and a professional level. And probably more importantly than that, and here's probably one of the most important things that I'm going to say, is that we teach women the importance of making time for themselves. I call it she time. If we don't put our oxygen mask on first, it is really, really hard for us to take care of others. So for me, a woman of value is somebody that gives somebody else the tools they need to step into their personal power.
Wow. Personal power and she time. I love the she time. That's cool. Yeah, I grew up with this idea that we had to do it all and never really focus on our own needs. And I have a young married daughter who's learning the importance of her own time. She's been home with 3 small children, and they were recently quarantined because her daughter's teacher was exposed to coronavirus. And oh my God, to be in the house, not able to leave for 2 weeks with 3 small children, your she time is so, so crucial. So I love that.
Even if you take it in 10 minutes and at a time, you just go in the backyard for a quiet cup of coffee, or sometimes my favorite, it's just going in the bathroom and taking 5 minutes to sit on the floor and meditate. It just really changes your day, changes your mood.
Yeah, she doesn't have a backyard, unfortunately, but she kept saying, "You have a backyard, it's not fair." They live in Israel in a small apartment, without a porch, without a backyard, so that makes it harder.
She's got a bathroom. Does she have a bathroom?
She does have a bathroom, and it is a respite. It was definitely mine. That was actually the first time I learned to take time for myself when I was raising my family. It was the only room in the house with a lock. And I would go in there and take a bath and bring a book in and make my husband stay awake and put the kids to sleep, because he would fall asleep before bedtime every single night unless I left the room. So it got him to spend time with the kids and read them books, and it was a win-win for all of us. That crucial time, it's not just, like pleasure time. It's self-care, and it is so, so crucial.
Yeah, too many times we think it's selfish and we just don't make time for it, but yet we work so much more efficiently and more effectively and are happier when we grab a little time for ourselves. Absolutely.
So you're doing all these amazing things now. You're empowering other women to take that time for themselves, but you've had mistakes along the way. We talked a little bit about that before the show. So will you share with us your pivotal moment where you really said, I've got to step more fully into my value, your woman of value moment?
Absolutely. And I've got 2 really fantastic stories to share with you, because for me, I had 2 aha moments. One was on a very, very personal basis that happened very early on in my career, and one is on a professional. On a personal side, it was really realizing how powerful my inner thoughts are in terms of impacting the quality of my life. I'm talking about all that noise that goes on in between those 2 ears of yours, that thinking, those thoughts. The bottom line is every day we have a choice. It starts when we wake up, and the thoughts we have determine our personal energy for the day. This, for me, all really, really came to a head a moment about 30 years ago. And it was really regarding my mother, Sue Kahn, who died incredibly young. When my mother was in her 50s, she had a brain tumor the size of a grapefruit removed. And while it was not malignant, she really had to learn how to walk and talk all over again. It was devastating. And right after my mother probably made it to 90% recovery and had survived the brain tumor, she got pancreatic cancer. And in the beginning, she fought really, really, really hard. And there were times we thought she was going to make it and going to conquer this horrible disease. But eventually, the cancer kept on coming back. And when my mother realized her days were limited, she sank into a very, very deep depression. By then, she was in hospital care under hospice. I visited her daily, and I tried everything I knew in my book to try to get her to smile, to cheer her up, and try to just get her to respond to what I was telling her and how much we loved her. But every time I visited her, she withdrew more and more and more, and nothing I did seemed to help. Then one magical day, I walked into her room, and all of a sudden she was sitting in the chair, she had the music on. She was doing that little kind of finger dance that we all do. And she was smiling, a big, big smile. And she was laughing. And so I asked her, I'm like, Mom, what changed? Why all of a sudden are you in such a good place? And she said, you know, Toots, it just occurred to me. This is my life. And although my days are numbered, I can choose to be happy and positive, or I can choose to be sad and unhappy. I really want to live the rest of my life enjoying my time with my beautiful family and being grateful for such a beautiful hospice room and the ability to spend the last days of my life with the people I love. So I've decided I'm going to be happy for the rest of my life. And that, for me, was such an impactful moment to realize that you have the choice over your happiness. There was my mother who was in incredible pain and knew she had weeks left in her life, but yet she had this aha moment that, you know what, this is what I have. These are the challenges that I have. So you know what, I'm gonna make the most of them. And it's a frame of mind and a peace of mind that I am going to keep with me every single day until I have no more days. So that was, I think, my biggest aha moment on a personal level. On a professional side, my aha moment was really realizing how rewarding it is to help people solve their problems. And when you help other people solve their problems, it's amazing the good things that come your way. I had just talked about the story about when my mother was sick and I resigned from my job, and I had a really, really incredible job as a executive director for a big international development company. It was a great job in every way of the word. And I resigned so I could take care of my mother, which was really great. But when I was ready to resume the employment market, the job market was really, really tough. And I really couldn't find a position. So I ended up taking a position that really, for all practical purposes, felt like a step down in terms of pay, responsibilities, and overall stature. I remember this was my first job with BlueCross BlueShield. I had a new boss. She was out of town. So my first day was really all about teaching myself how to get started. And I was given one task to do, one small little task. And that was to introduce myself via email to the rest of the organization. Unfortunately, it was about 25 years ago, and email was just getting to be popular, and I wasn't really familiar with the email system or the computer system, and I was really having challenges figuring out. I knew what I wanted to say, I just couldn't figure out how to send an email to everyone. So I ended up working very late. It was a Friday night, and I remember all of a sudden this very, very tall man peered over my cubicle and said, "Hey, lady, who are you?" And I introduced myself, and I said I was the new communication support professional. That was my position, a communication support professional. And he introduced himself and told me he was also new to the company as well. And said, since I was in communications, he just thought that he would share with me how frustrated he was with the new member communication program that they had, and that their marketing materials were confusing, they were overwhelming, they were, in his words, horrible. And he was embarrassed to be part of this organization that couldn't explain their benefits and couldn't explain their product in a simple, easy to understand way. I learned the very next day that that man that I was talking to was the new CEO. He never told me he was the CEO, didn't introduce himself as that. And so I thought to myself, if I can help him with his problem and his frustration, that would be a really good thing. So I mentioned it to my current boss, and she had far too many assignments for me to work on. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to work on this in my own time. And while I wasn't assigned this project, I really spent a lot of time developing a solution to his frustrations. 2 weeks later, I asked for an appointment with him. He didn't know me by name, but he remembered me as the new kid on the block. He loved the solution that I had developed and was floored I acted so fast to spend my personal time on this project. He ended up giving me a promotion within a week and a team to help me implement my ideas. And then 6 months after that, I got yet another promotion. And for me, the lesson that I learned is that if you listen hard and if you take on other people's challenges, you'll have a friend and an advocate for life. To this day, this man is my friend, my mentor, and has helped me so much with my career. And I really have to believe it's because I worked really hard to put him in a position to be successful and help him solve one of his problems. So for me, those are the two biggest lessons I learned. One is you can control your mood, and two is that if you help other people with their problems, it usually leads to something good.
Wow. Thank you for sharing those two amazing aha moments. Sorry about your loss with your mom, but it sounds like she, at the end of her days, provided you with an incredible lesson that you've taken with you for the rest of your life, which is such a gift.
Yeah, no matter what, I always wake up in the morning and I think about my mother, and I think that if she could have such a positive attitude every day, why can't I? My problems are not so big and so bad and so challenging. It was a great lesson. Very, very great lesson.
Yeah, no, it is. And the second one about how rewarding it is to help others. But I love how you listened and you were driven. It wasn't just that you heard him. It was that you took action and you did something about it, which I think is an important takeaway for people, that many times we have opportunities and we get so busy in life that we ignore them. And you took action. You made it happen. And because of that, even though you took a step down in this career, you ended up soaring up to the top.
Yeah, who would have known? I really had thought, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing taking this position. And it just really goes to show you really, really never know where opportunity is, and that in some ways we make our own opportunities, right?
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I think often we wait passively for them to come our way. And it's so much healthier to take control of the situation and do what you can to create the life you want.
So true. So very true.
Yeah. So let's talk about your leadership style. You have been in many leadership roles. Tell us a little bit about how you lead, and if it is any different from how men lead. I know that sometimes women's leadership style is very different. It's a little softer. It could be just a little different. So please share with us how you lead.
Sure. Well, first I'm going to start a story. My first really big grown-up job was for an all-male development company, and I can remember interviewing for this position, and as I was walking to the elevator, and I just finished like a 2-hour brutal interview with 6 men firing questions away, and as I'm walking away, not knowing if I got the job, all of a sudden I heard my soon-to-be boss say, "I can't believe I'm about to hire a woman, let alone a Jewish one at that." 2 weeks later, I started that job, and at my first management meeting, I walked into a room full of men, and as I got there, it just got so incredibly quiet. And I heard one man saying, since we have women in the room, we need to watch ourselves. And I turned around and I looked at him, and then everybody looked at me, and I replied rather loudly, well, I may be a woman, I burp and fart like the rest of you. And for me, I think we're all humans. And the one thing that I really love to do is to make the workplace enjoyable and also to help people with their challenges. When I started at United Healthcare, it was a challenging job because there were hundreds and hundreds of employees. And my first thing that I did as I walked in as a senior manager was to really sit down and listen to everyone in all positions to find out what their challenges were, and so I could help them make their jobs more enjoyable, and that I could help relieve some of the stress. And one of the things that they said to me was, as soon as I come into work, it's work, 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 work. I have no time to catch my breath. So we installed something that's called 5 minutes of fun, and we would get together as a company a couple of times a day and just do something really fun for 5 minutes. Maybe it would be to make ice cream cones, maybe it would be to tell jokes, maybe it would be to do some physical activity, but it was one of the best things I did because it was what people needed. They needed time to breathe, to get away from their desks. And I think my leadership style is to really take a step back and to look at the people that are working with me, not for me. And that's also very important. You have people that work with you, not for you, and to give them the tools that they need to be successful. So many times they have things standing in their way and they don't raise their hand about them. And when you can find out what those things are and make a more desirable workplace, it's usually a win-win situation for everybody.
I love the 5 minutes a day of fun. That is awesome.
I still try to do it today. I bought some bubbles in the grocery store yesterday, and I said to myself, I'm going to do that today. I'm just going to sit on the back porch and be a 60-year-old woman blowing bubbles. And you know what? It's going to be fun.
I love it. I think too many people live a life of deprivation and so much stress. And, again, back to your mindset. Your mindset is everything. So you can make a choice to enjoy your day more, to have fun. And I as a coach, I often see that people think fun means they have to take a vacation. Like they have to make this big plan to have fun. And I agree with you. I think we have to do it every single day, more than once a day. I mean, I walk every day with my son and we laugh our heads off because he's a really funny guy and we just make jokes, and it starts my day off right. We're working out and laughing. So two good things.
Yeah, my son came home during the pandemic, 29 years old, and he was home with me for 3 months, the best and the greatest gift that I had. And for me, we decided we were going to work out together. And so we create these obstacle courses and do all these crazy things. We used our imagination. And you know what? Those memories are going to be memories I'm going to have the rest of my life. And they were all man-made memories. We didn't leave the house. We just went right into the backyard and had fun.
I love it. My son's 29 also, by the way. And I think this pandemic is a great example of what you make of it. And just like you said, we can choose to just look at the worst parts of it, which there are plenty. There's plenty of stuff going on in the world right now that you could get depressed about, or you could make the best of what's happening now and what you create in the moment, which brings me to the present. So tell us, what are you doing today? Work-wise, life-wise, bring us to the present moment.
Sure, absolutely. I think for me, I mentioned in the beginning that I manage a nonprofit. I started it about 2 years ago. We took 6 months to plan it, and then we actually opened our doors. And it's an organization whose mission is really quite simple. It's to empower women to become the best version of themselves. And we do that by providing programming and resources and one-on-one coaching and events that really help them learn and grow. And I think what sets us apart from most other women's organizations is that we focus on 3 pillars. When I decided I wanted to start a women's organization, I traveled around the country to really take a peek at what was going on. And what I found was that there are lots of organizations out there, but they focused on professional development or they focused on health and wellness, but very few of them focused on the total woman. And so I decided that that was going to be the pillar of She Can, that we were going to focus on making sure that women had a positive mindset, that they had good health, and that they had the tools that they needed to develop professionally. Most other organizations, they just don't focus on this total woman. And I believe to be happy and to be successful, you need a positive mindset, good health, and feel like your career is on the right path. And if one of those pillars is missing, it's kind of like sitting on a 3-legged stool. You kind of have to balance. If you don't have your health, you have to balance. If you're frustrated with your career, if that's on your mind, you have to balance. So I think as women, we need to look at those 3 pillars and focus on all of them. We previously talked about women being caregivers and focusing on everybody else instead of themselves. Well, She Can, one of our main focuses is to get women to put on their oxygen mask first. If you don't put on your oxygen mask, how can you really help others and help others take care of others? And so we teach a lot of women about she time and how important it is to make time for themselves, and also how important it is not to work. The brain works in 90-minute intervals, and most people, they sit down, they work, and they feel as though they're going to work until their task is done. But the reality is that after about 90 minutes, we get less and less productive. And so, I always try to teach women how important it is to pace yourself and to take care of yourself and not to work.
I love it. I love that you look at this holistically, because we are not just one thing. We are so many things, as you've mentioned many times today. And mindset, good health, and professional development are all interrelated, and taking time for yourself. Beautiful.
Yeah, they affect each other, but often you do need a plan on how to make them happen too. And often, while the plan's integrated, you do need to look at them a little bit individually and focus on them individually.
Yeah, having a plan. I mean, that's what I love about coaching in general, because, so many people will tell you, just focus on your health, but they won't tell you how. Or, just get better at your job. Just be positive. None of that works unless you have a plan. And so that's what's beautiful about actually working with somebody to help you develop what works for you individually. And that's how growth happens.
Yeah, what an important comment, and that is how giving people the how-tos is so important. I know whenever I develop, I do a lot of speaking, and I always try to, at the end of the speech or lecture or PowerPoint or whatever it is to make sure I give clean how-to directions. And that's when the women are all sitting there scribbling, taking notes and everything, because not everybody has this instinct inside of them on where to begin or how to figure it out. A lot of women need some suggestions to help them find their way.
Absolutely. I mean, I teach so many courses on boundary setting and communication skills and all the things that we need to be able to carve out that time, what to say yes to, what to say no to. How are we living our life in response to others or in response to what works for us? And the amazing thing is that when we do this work, people in our lives respect us more instead of less. I think there's this misunderstanding that if I carve out time for me, like you said before, it's not selfish, but we often think it is. And so people will be pissed at me and they won't respect me, but the right people do.
Yeah, I hear you.
Let's talk about the future, Peggy.
Sure.
What's on tap for you for the future?
Well, as I said, I'm 60 years young. I'm very proud of my age, and I'm determined to reverse age. And I do that through my mindset by staying very, very physically active. But on a professional side, I think I'd like to take She Can from a regional organization to a national organization. It has been so rewarding to watch people step into their personal power. And I just feel like if we could do that for more women, that it'd just be nice to watch them become happier and healthier and more productive. And so for me, my future is about how can I take this great organization that I have so many amazing women that are a part of and start to grow on a national level. So that's kind of what my future looks like. Besides, the pandemic has really brought me closer to my family. I love spending time with my family. They bring me so much joy, whether it's game night, whether it's just sitting on the back porch, whether it's, I spend probably 20 minutes every day just sitting and petting my cat, because nothing brings me more joy than hearing that little guy purr up a storm because I'm petting him. I mean, how cool is that? So, that's where I'm at. I live each day to its fullest. And while I think about the future, I really try to live in the now and to make each day count and think a little bit more short term than longer term.
Yeah, I love your energy and drive and your bigger mission, because I think when you have a mission, you wake up with purpose every day. And it doesn't have to be as big as starting a nonprofit for people who are listening and think, what can I do? But I think if you think about like, what am I here on this planet for? And what will get me motivated to wake up and hit the ground running in the morning? It's everybody's capable of finding their mission and their purpose in life.
Yeah, and you're so right. It is the small things. I have a ex-mother-in-law who's 96 years old. And because of the pandemic, so many people have been shut in and their whole world has really changed and become very, very isolated. And I have to say, one of my biggest joys right now is going over to the assisted living home and bringing a thermos full of juice and some fresh baked cookies and just spending time with these older women. And they are so appreciative to have somebody new in their space and somebody to talk to. And I just think that, when you can do things for other people and make the sunshine for them when maybe they're in an environment that it's really hard to make the sunshine, that is one of the most rewarding things we can do in life.
Mm. And she's an ex-mother-in-law, so I love that you.
An ex-mother-in-law, that's right.
That's very special. Well, now it's time for the lightning round. I'm going to ask you a bunch of fast questions and have you give me some quick answers. You ready?
Sounds great.
Okay. I used to think I wasn't blank enough.
I used to think I wasn't enough. I used to think I didn't have everything I needed to be successful. There was a time in my life where I had so much challenge that I just thought I wasn't enough and I didn't have the resources I need to overcome the challenges. And then one day I woke up and I said to myself, you know what? I am enough. I have everything I need to be successful. And for a long time there, I had to say it to myself every morning to begin to believe it. But it's just really important to know that you have everything you need to be happy and to be successful. and that you are enough. So for me, I am enough.
I love it. What was the number one thing holding you back from becoming a woman of value?
Yeah, I think when I stopped thinking about what's in it for me and started thinking about how I could help others, the rewards became epic. Helping other people is the most amazing thing you can do, teaching people. And so it's not just helping one person, but all of a sudden when you can help a village, it is just epically rewarding. And so for me, it was just really, when I stopped thinking about my self-full purpose, what I wanted, what's in it for me, and I really started to think about other people, that's when the paradigm changed.
Beautiful. What is the best advice you could give to a woman who wants to become more empowered?
I would say with every challenge comes opportunity, and that you may have an opportunity or challenge and feel like you're in a rut and nothing and everything around you is hard. But if you can take a pause and figure out how to learn from these challenges to do something better or become a better version of yourself, they're amazing experiences. And when I look back on my life, the things that were the most meaningful for me were the things that were really, really, really hard. So I would say, you know what? When there's challenge right in front of you, hold on, because if you really sit in it and indulge in the challenge, you'll figure out how to turn it into an opportunity.
Yeah, we definitely learn our most from the biggest challenges. And I actually always want to hear about people's biggest challenges and what they've overcome, because that's the juice of a person. That's what makes them an interesting person. I think we don't always realize that. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Work less, play more. When you're rested, the work flows. When you're tired, you spin your wheels. I have been a chronic workaholic, and I still struggle to get balance in my life and to not work 7 days a week. But when I play more, everything in my life is better. So work less, play more. That is what I'd say to myself and still say to myself.
Take time for the bubbles on the back porch, right?
Yeah, take time for the bubbles on the back porch. It's so true.
What is something that people often get wrong about you?
Get wrong about me? I think, it's recently, I had been called a white middle-aged woman of privilege. And I am a white middle-aged woman of privilege. I'm very fortunate to be in the situation that I am, but I have worked very hard to create my world, to create my environment, to create everything around me. And so I think too many people think that I've led a charmed life. And I've really had a lot of challenges and a lot of really scary, horrible things happen to me. I always think of this one story when I was a little girl, and my dad worked really, really hard, and we bought a new house, and we moved into a new neighborhood. And I was, I don't know, must have been 7 or 8 years old. And I have this vivid memory of my mother putting me in a play group with the new neighborhood, because all the kids would get together and they would play in somebody's backyard. And it gave moms a time to have a little time for themselves during summer recess. And so I can remember I would go into the backyard, and their favorite game was Duck, Duck, Dirty Jew. And, I thought I was going to be playing Duck, Duck, Goose. And what they would do was they would walk around me, and every time it was Duck, Duck. And then they had this game where they'd kick me. And I learned at a very young age sort of how people always look at you differently and that they judge you, and how important it is to stand up and say, hey, this situation is not acceptable. And after a couple of times of playing this game and having all these girls and boys really put me in a difficult situation, I learned at a young age to stand up and say, hey, guess what? What you're doing is not acceptable. And for me, I guess the lesson learned was, once again, with challenge comes opportunity.
Wow, when you had the courage to speak up at such a young age. That's amazing. People can be hurtful, and it's up to us to take a stand for what's important.
Right, and especially now. I mean, I think about, I get back to that point of being a privileged white woman, and I think about the challenges that I felt as a child, and just realize that we're all God's children. We all have so many challenges, and especially now, it's so important to work together towards a happier, healthier world.
Amen to that. Well, finally, Peggy, how would you like to be remembered?
I think as a woman who made a difference in someone's life, in many people's lives, I would love to think that I was somebody who helped give them the insights on how to be more successful and maybe find that blissful happiness. I've been coaching this one girl for a number of years, and we met just to have fun on Saturday night because she's become one of my friends. And she said, oh my God, Peggy, I just feel like you have given me the tools that I need to become successful. And to me, that's the greatest legacy I could ever have, is being known as somebody who helped other people.
Beautiful. Well, you're doing it. You've been doing it. And I know you will continue to do that for other people. And thank you for coming on today and being an inspiration to many of us.
It was my pleasure, and really thank you for doing such an amazing thing. Your podcasts give a lot of hope and meaning and strategy to a lot of women. So kudos to you for putting together such an amazing program that makes a difference.
If you would like to step more fully into your value, grab a free copy of The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Woman of Value on my website, thewomanofvalue.com. Just click the link at the top of the homepage. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to click the subscribe button in your listening app. And if there's something in this episode that inspired you, please share it with others, because the more we share these inspirational stories, the more women of value we will have in this world. I'll see you next time.